Uh, I am making a video on how I consume my meat. Now, I am on a variation of the raw primal diet. Uh, Most of my animal products are raw, the eggs and the milk and such. But I want to show you guys how I cook my meat. And I promised you guys this video in my consultations with a few of you guys. So this is the video. What I have here is halal chicken. I buy this from a local source here, and it's already marinated. And I basically cut this stuff into small cubes, and then I put them on a skewer, and I cook it that way. And I'm going to show you guys exactly how I do this. Now, a lot of the meat that people eat today is overcooked to death. They literally incinerate it, they overcook it, and that kills all of the hormones, the beneficial bacteria, the enzymes, and a lot of the vitamins and minerals. And so you're basically eating a brick if you overdo it. Of course, if it's raw, it tastes disgusting, but you have everything intact. A lot of the life-giving properties are intact in raw food. But there's a middle ground if you know how to do things right. And I'm going to show you guys how to do that here in this video. How do you cook meat for healing and regeneration? How do you cook meat and get protein for healing and regeneration? Raw meat has all the vitamins and minerals intact. Well done incinerated meat, which turns into a brick, has no vitamins and minerals intact, and most of the amino acids are cauterized, and it's not really a food at that point. And it requires a lot of energy for your body to push out the system. So this is the middle ground. What I do is, again, it's halal chicken, and I put them on these skewers. I cut them into small bite-sized cubes, and in front of me here I have coals that I have ignited. They'll be ready soon, and I cook them on top of the coals. And this takes practice. I can't really teach you how to do this. You have to do it for yourself and learn how to cook your own meat. But you've got to watch it carefully and have an eye for it. And you want to cook it to where it looks appetizing to you, where it may look tasty and delicious. But again, you don't want to overdo it. You don't want to turn it into a solid brick. And if you cook it the right way, you can in one sitting eat 1 pound to 2 pounds of meat like this and get a lot of nutrition in. And it digests phenomenally, in contrast to the well done incinerated overly cooked meat that has all of its nutritional qualities robbed. So 70% of my diet is raw. I do a lot of raw eggs, raw butter, raw kefir, raw honey. I'm on an ancestral diet, so I also consume a lot of cultural foods that my body has adapted to. And it's not necessary for me to explain those foods because it's not for everybody. But cooking meat like this is for everybody. And you just have to gauge how much you would need. Everyone is different. But if you're going to eat meat, in my opinion, there's no better way to cook and consume meat than how I am going to show you guys here. When you cook on a pan, the problem with the pan is that you're going to be using oils or butter to cook on. And that creates lipid peroxides. It causes the oils or the ghee or butter or whatever you cook in to go rancid. Additionally, you're going to be leaching heavy metals, nickel, cobalt, aluminum, all kinds of metals from the pan into the meat. And that's going to cause heavy metal poisoning. So that's another issue. What I like about the skewers is that you're getting the least amount of carcinogenic byproducts. And you can control how you cook it, as you guys will see. The way I like to cook it, I open up the fibers with the heat, and I make sure that the water, the juice in the meat is intact. You don't want to overdo this stuff. The nutrition, most of the nutrition that your body wants and craves is in the water of the meat. And thoroughly cooking it drains the water or the nutrition out of the meat. Give me a minute. Okay, now these coals look about ready. Okay, we'll start with the first 3 skewers. And you just lay them flat on top of the coals. In the Middle Eastern culture, and the culture that I am from, this is a very common way of consuming our meat. And so it's nothing new to me, but I have found over the years experimenting with nutrition. Again, if you're going to heat your meat up, this is by far the best way to do it. In comparison to consuming raw meat, to be honest, the nutritional benefit, the sensations that I feel are pretty much identical. You're not, and again, it's because you're not destroying much of the nutrition. Boiling meat will destroy a lot, although a lot of it will remain intact in the soup. Now, something important about this is because of the way you're cooking it, because it's so easy to digest because all the water is intact, you can eat a lot of this and you're able to consume a large amount of protein in one sitting. And doing that provides the body with adequate building blocks to rebuild the structural integrity of the body. The bones, the ligaments, the joints, the collagen, all the collagenous tissues, the intestinal lining. Ironically, I have found that it's not great for building muscle. I find that I build muscle on carbohydrates far better than I do on fats and proteins. And that's a topic for another video. But as far as bringing in the structural integrity of the body, again, the intestinal lining, the ligaments and joints, I usually get a lot of shoulder inflammation from working out. And I find that a high dose of protein like this really heals it rapidly. I have a video about oxtail soup and how that can be used to heal the intestinal lining as well. That works, but I have found that something like this, where you're getting maybe upwards of 100 grams of protein in one sitting, 100 grams of digestible, absorbable protein in one sitting, works just as efficiently. Funny thing is, I was compelled to make this video because I had a dream last night of Augenis Vonderplanets, and he told me to tell people to cook their meat like this, the way I have been doing, and that they would be okay if they consumed this 70% raw food diet in the way of the raw dairy products and the eggs, the butter, the milk, and the honey. And that is what I'm naturally doing. And if you're familiar with my literary work, the book The Disease of Kings, I reference a lot of Dr. Pottinger's work and how when he fed cats a diet of 70% raw food, they did just as well as those cats who consumed 100% raw food diet. In contrast to the cats who were given 100% cooked food, they degenerated over time, and by the 3rd generation, they were completely infertile. They couldn't reproduce, and they were sick, diseased, and were born with many malformities. And of course, I correlate that generational degeneration to what we are witnessing now in the modern world, especially in the industrialized nations of the modern West, where we have just an extremely degenerate generation of people who have spawned on the planet. And it's because they're not getting this kind of food. They're not getting real food. They're being fed pseudo food. So of course that's going to happen. I hope the camera can catch this so you guys can see exactly how I'm cooking. But when it's ready to eat, I'll bring it up to the camera. And you do want to eat this right off the grill. It tastes absolutely delicious if you take it off the grill and consume it. That's the way I do it. I don't take it to a kitchen or anything like that and then wait 10 minutes before I consume it. I consume it right off of the grill. Oftentimes I also start a wood fire and I cook it on a wood fire, and that's even better. It tastes absolutely delicious. And I do different cuts. This is the most common cut I do, chicken. Halal chicken breast. It's from a pastured farm, an organic farm. But I do lamb chops. I do a lot of fatty game. And It all tastes much better than cooking it any other way, especially cooking it on a pan, which is so toxic. One thing about the coals, when you're lighting them up, make sure that they have completely covered with ashes before you start cooking on them, because there's a chemical inside of the artificial coals that we buy at the grocery store that off-gases mercury. And you want to wait for all of that stuff to off-gas before you start cooking on it, or else you're going to contaminate your meat with mercury. You don't want to do that. Um, in order to get the most out of eating this way, you do want to do it on an empty stomach so that your body's primed for digestion, absorption, and utilization. Um, you also want to consume it with some fat, maybe butter. I already consumed my butter. It's disgusting. It's raw butter. I just consume a few tablespoons before my meal to get that out of the way. And then when you consume the protein after that, you'll use the protein for healing and regeneration rather than for fuel. If you consume this lean chicken breast like this without any fat, your body's going to use a lot of it for fuel. And it won't prioritize healing and regeneration of the body. And a lot of people that I'm dealing with today, a lot of people that I do consultations with, what they're suffering from is the lack of intestinal integrity. That's what most people are suffering from today. And it's because they were raised on various types of grains and cereals. They were put on a slave diet. All of us were put on slave diets growing up. And that stuff just completely rips apart the body. And especially when you're lacking in adequate protein like this, you don't ever get a chance to rebuild. But this will rebuild the body over time. And actually, it's much more rapid than cooking meat on a pan and so on. Now, I've had it on here maybe 4 or 5 minutes, and that's about the point that I like it at. You could go longer, but keep in mind, the longer you go, the harder it's going to come, and you're losing all of that precious fluid. Um, if you see there's oil dropping, that's where the nutrition is. That's where the life force is at. And if you overdo it, well, it's a brick at that point. And it tastes delicious. Especially if you marinate it yourself or if you buy it marinated. I buy it marinated. I trust the local source that I buy from. It's a good farm and they have just an amazing marinade. Some Persian recipe. And when you start consuming your meat this way, especially fat or even chicken breast like this, and when that water is intact, when you take those first few bites, you feel the resonance that the fluids in the meat have with your brain and the organs of your body. You literally feel hydrated on another level that water and even fats from dairy simply cannot provide. There's something in the fluid of meat that absolutely invigorates the body. And again, cooking it on a pan gets rid of it very fast. You're going to lose a lot of fluid from the meat that way, cooking it on a pan. If you're boiling it, it gets diluted into the water. And boiling it too long on a high heat may actually destroy the nutrients that were in the water in the first place, in the water of the meat. Now, I do put hot sauce on everything I eat, so don't mind me. This is just something for me personally. It's not something you should do. I just like doing it. Now I'm going to show you guys what the inside of the meat should look like. The main idea is that it's soft and it's wet. That's what you're looking for. You're not looking for hard and dry. You're looking for soft and wet. That will nourish you. Anything else I want to say? Let's see. Now this is pure protein. It's just pure chicken breast. There's hardly any fat. I already had fat from butter. And all three macronutrients are important, in my opinion. I know there's a lot of people who demonize fat or they demonize carbs, but it's really just dogma. A lot of people don't know what they're talking about today, and it's because they are a byproduct of the generational, cultural, and nutritional deprivation that has occurred in the modern West. And so a lot of people's ideas are just bunk, they're bogus. They are not seeing things as those things are. They are seeing things as they are. It's extremely subjective. Somebody may be very sensitive to all carbohydrates, and then they go and turn into low-carb zealots. The fact of the matter is that all three macronutrients play a role in the body. Fat is a fuel, fat is a lubricant, fat is a moisturizer. Fat has the fat-soluble vitamins, which build your bones and teeth. Fat has a lot of cholesterol that can fuel and rebuild organs and glands, so on. Protein is a structural macronutrient. It rebuilds the structural integrity of the cells, whereas the fat creates cellular membrane. It replenishes and helps rejuvenate cellular membranes of the body cells. Protein replenishes, rejuvenates, and reinvigorates structural integrity. Think of the body as a tent. The fat is the fabric around the tent, and the protein are the poles which hold the tent up. Carbohydrates, on the other hand, are like a storage you would put inside of the tent. They balloon the tent up, but they also lead to the production of new tents. It is very difficult to put on fat or to gain weight or mass or to generate lipogenesis, the production of new fat cells, without carbohydrates. And that's the role carbohydrates have. They create new structures, but then in order for those new cells to have proper cellular integrity, you're going to need fat in the diet and protein in the diet. But again, without the carbohydrates, you're not building anything new. Protein and fat can simply sustain the tissue you already have, but for a lot of people, if you go completely zero carb, you're going to just dwindle away. You're going to lose a lot of fat and muscle mass. You'll lose both. And you'll come down to basically a weight and size which has the minimal amount of stress on the body. And that's not a bad idea if you're interested in longevity. But for developing children, mothers, and so on, or for men who want to put on mass, it's not in your interest. You'll need carbs. And I've written a book about that, Nutritional Fortification and Physical Development, on this entire idea of incorporating all the macronutrients into the diet in order to ensure proper development. Not for old people, but younger people and mothers. The way this digests compared to overly cooked meat is just night and day. So, I think that's all I've got for this video. If you have any questions, go ahead and comment in the comment section. I will be coming back to YouTube. I was busy the past few weeks with personal business. I'm back now, and I'll be making videos in this format. Yeah, and if there's certain topics you want me to make videos about, just go ahead and comment in the comment section as well. If you want to support my channel, just give a like, comment, or share. I also have my literary work in the description below. Purchasing any of my literary work helps to basically fuel my endeavors for making this video. It gives me more free time to make videos. In addition to nutrition, I'm going to start talking a lot about religion, philosophy, and modern politics, what's happening in the world today on the political arena, because that's what I'm more interested in. I'm not so interested in nutrition. To me, nutrition is a very simple concept after studying it for many years. So I'll be making a lot more videos. Anyways, I hope this was helpful. Thank you all and have a wonderful day.